Hello everybody and welcome to Bright Weird. Interesting subject today because today I'm going to be speaking a little bit about alchemy and the Emerald Tablet. Now hopefully before watching this video you've seen my previous video about the exoteric and the esoteric, because understanding what the esoteric is will give you an insight into exactly what it is that I've done to understand the cryptic text that is the Emerald Tablet, and how it gives an insight into something called alchemy. So without any further ado, this is Bright Weird.
"'Tis true without lying, certain and most true, that black earth is generally the most fertile, and this can be proven by thrusting your hand into a bag of compost. The earth between your fingers will not be blue, yellow, or even brown. The fertile earth is black. In the old times, the word Egypt did not exist. The name Egypt comes from the Greek Aegyptos, which was the Greek pronunciation of the ancient Egyptian name Huat-Ka-Ptah, or mansion of the spirit of Ptah. Originally, this was the name of the city of Memphis. In the most ancient of times, Egypt had another name, however, and that name was Kemet. The river Nile, which flows through that land, floods once a year, and as it does so, it nourishes and enriches the land with nutrients, and in doing so, it turns the earth black. In ancient times, this black earth is what gave the land its name. Kemet, which is the ancient name for Egypt, literally means black land. And the people who lived in the land of Kemet were called the Cometians, which literally means the people of the black land. I often think of those early times, and I can imagine a Cometian farmer turning to his workfellow and saying, "I've noticed that the river floods every time the sun rises over that tree on the left." And his friend replying, "And I've noticed that the floods tend to recede when the sun rises above that tree over there on the right." Eventually, throughout the passage of time, these trees may have fallen, being replaced by man-made pillars to mark the operation of the sun. And so the religious and scientific world was created. You may have heard of the science of alchemy. This is indeed a subject of great interest and has been studied by some of the greatest minds throughout the ages. To the uninitiated, alchemy may simply relate to the creation of the philosopher's stone and to the artificial production of gold. These are certainly allegories for something much, much greater. You see, there are two sides to alchemy, the material and the spiritual. The name alchemy comes from alchemy, or the art of Kemet. Alchemy is literally the art of the Cometians, the art of the Black Land, the art of the Black Earth, or simply put, the black art. Material alchemy has evolved into the modern science of chemistry. Alchemy is in part chemistry. The ancient Cometians were extremely advanced chemists, and this is proven by the work of mummification, which can only be achieved with the highest understanding of chemistry. You cannot mummify a body by accident. The chemicals used to prepare and protect and preserve the cadaver are a deliberate and critical balance, taking much scientific skill and knowledge to prepare. Spiritual alchemy is the other side of the science, and it involves mental transformation. And I will discuss this later in this lecture, but first I want to take you to a mystical object known as the Emerald Tablet of Hermes Trismegistus. The Emerald Tablet is believed to be a single artifact engraved with a cryptic Hermetic text. It was highly regarded by Islamic, Hebrew, and European alchemists as the foundation of their art, and although regarded highly by these groups, the tablet is attributed to the legendary Hellenistic figure Hermes Trismegistus, also known as the Egyptian god Thoth. The text of the Emerald Tablet first appears in a number of early medieval Arabic sources, the oldest of which dates to the late 8th or possibly early 9th century. It has been translated into Latin several times in the 12th and 13th centuries, and numerous interpretations and commentaries have followed. Medieval and early modern alchemists associated the emerald tablet with the creation of the philosopher's stone and the artificial production of gold. It has also been widely popular to occultists and esotericists, among whom the expression "as above, so below," a modern paraphrase on the second verse of the tablet, has become often a cited motto. The emerald tablet is written in the language of Phoenician and has been translated, as I said, many times throughout the ages. Being unable to translate Phoenician myself, it is the English translation by the renowned alchemist Sir Isaac Newton that I have chosen to focus on. This translation is found among his alchemical papers that are currently housed in King's College Library at Cambridge University. When I first stumbled upon this text, as to many, initially it made no sense at all. Trusting the opinion of the chief professors who throughout the ages have studied it, I made the decision to put the translation to memory as a gift for my inner self. It is my firm belief that if you read a text, the words wash over and may influence you. But if you memorize the text, the words become part of you. It was my hope that once memorized, my subconscious mind, my inner self, would analyze those words in a manner similar to background computing tasks. It was my hope that, in time, this process would reap fruit and bring a meaning or understanding to the surface that I could not otherwise have gained. Here is the translation, the Sir Isaac Newton translation, which I first memorized. "'Tis true without lying, certain and most true, that that which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to do the miracles of only one thing. And as all things have been and arose from the mediation of one, so all things have their birth from this one thing by adaptation. The sun is its father, the moon its mother, the wind hath carried it in its belly, the earth is its nurse. The father of all perfection in the whole world is here, his force or power be entire if it be converted into earth. And separate thou the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly and with great industry. It ascends from the earth to the heaven, and again it descends to the earth, and receives the force of all things superior and inferior. By this means you shall have the glory of the whole world, and all obscurity shall fly from you. Its force is above all force. It vanquishes every subtle thing and penetrates every solid thing. So was the world created. From this are and do come admirable adaptations, whereof the means is here, in this. Hence I am called Hermes Trismegist, having the three parts of the philosophy of the whole world. That which I have said of the operation of the sun is accomplished and ended." I stated earlier that I would mention the second side to alchemy, that being spiritual transformation. And after memorizing the emerald tablet, it was a few weeks before my subconscious mind made its first discovery. That first revelation came to me on a winter's evening while staring up at the first stars in the cloudless vault above. And I'll share with you that understanding that was given to me, but I must express that it is true without lying, certain and most true, that this is my innocent understanding from deep within, and I make no claim on any of it being correct. I'll now proceed to entrust you with my first glimpse of the majesty behind the text, but I must premise for your general information that all of what follows is highly speculative on my part, being pure esoteric knowledge from within. This is my first understanding of the words, and it relates to these particular words in the center of the text. Separate thou the earth from the fire, the subtle from the gross, sweetly and with great industry. The first thoughts that I had from this that came to me from deep within was that the earth is the physical body, the fire is the divine spark, the human mind, the subtle is the inner subconscious self, the inner genius that hears and remembers everything, and the gross is the conscious waking self, the rough ashlar compared to the elusive inner genius. Sweetly means considerately or attentively, and great industry means extremely difficult or very hard work. This leads to the following. Separate the physical body from the mind. Separate the subconscious mind from the conscious self. Do these things carefully and understand that it will be very hard to do. To the sleeping masses of humanity, both the subtle and gross levels of consciousness are mixed like a muddy, bottomless bucket of mind, a confused and inept jumble of thoughts and half memories. While in this state, the inner genius is unreachable and unknowable. This is in part a consequence of evolution, because if the inner genius was not hidden inside, we would not function well as humans. The inner genius hears and remembers every action in your life, and imagine how difficult life would be if at all times you could remember perfectly exactly what you were doing 17.5 years ago, or recall the explicit details of the horrors and pains that you had suffered in life. Having those sort of distractions constantly in full volume in your mind, it would really fuss with our seafood, kill it and eat it instinct that is controlled by our waking mind. The aim of he who seeks enlightenment is to separate the subtle from the gross, sweetly and with great industry. That is to take that muddy bucket of mind and separate it out into its constituent parts, to separate the gross conscious mind from the subtle inner genius. You can see here a picture of the Baphomet statue, and on the arms are tattooed the words Solve Coagula, which means dissolve and coagulate, to break a substance down into its basic elements before reforming it into something new. In this case, to separate the conscious mind from the inner self and reform them as clear and separate entities. It is through the great work or the great industry that this separation can be achieved. And when separate and distinct, the subtle inner mind may find its own voice, and raise the conscious aspirant sweetly to the throne of grace. And this would happen through what I would describe personally as a subtle form of controlled schizophrenia. Two separate minds communicating and working as one, sweetly and with great industry. Like I say, at least that's my own personal experience, and I do offer freely that I may be going quite mad. When the conscious mind is separate from and able to communicate with the inner genius, you will find that you have the most powerful of tools at your disposal, access to an inner super being, the alchemical power of God. Is that too strong? I don't know, probably. The great work signifies the spiritual path towards self-transcendence in its entirety. And this is the process of bringing those subtle unconscious complexes into the gross consciousness. Bringing forth the inner genius is the admirable labour of life and undeniably the greatest of industries.
I know, it's a difficult subject, and it probably doesn't help matters that I've gone off on several random tangents throughout the video, but just to summarise where we are, to separate the subtle from the gross might literally mean to separate the conscious and the subconscious minds. And when you have done that sweetly and with great industry, because it's not easy to do, the subconscious mind, the inner genius, can then be brought forward, but only if your conscious mind is able and willing to ever so carefully listen to its subtle and divine nature. Alchemy, the art of the Black Land, the black art. Today I have only skimmed the very surface and expressed my own esoteric understanding of one small part of the staggeringly intelligent and cryptic text that is the Emerald Tablet. Alchemy is a subject that I'll likely be studying for many, many years to come, as above and so below the surface of my consciousness. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video today. I'm Steve. This has been Bright Weird. Thanks for watching.